Welcome to Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, the home for financial advice in a language you can understand. Created by Marc Freedman of Freedman Financial, he and his team of certified financial planner professionals will discuss timely topics that help individuals and families make smart financial decisions. And now, get ready for this week's edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial.
Welcome back to another edition of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial. My name is Marc Freedman.
And I'm Marion Gilman.
And we're here to provide you with some advice, financial advice, in a language you can understand.
As we do each and every week.
We do it every week. And you
That's
know,
right. And every day, actually.
Yeah, and every day in the office, we are given ideas of what to talk about on this podcast.
Yeah. And how many times do we follow it?
Well, yeah, we always mix it up. So just as you're watching this right now, it's 3:11 on Thursday, I don't know, the 25th, maybe 25th? 26th, I don't even know.
26, yeah.
Marion and I are sitting down here at this table right now. We're going to do about a 12-minute podcast for you, and we have no idea what we're talking about. Do we?
Nope.
Which is kind of how we do every single one of these podcasts. We figure we're just going to grab something that happens in the office and build a story around it. That's called real financial advice that happens from real stories with real financial advice.
But let's face it. I mean, I've been at this for 26 years. You've been at it for what,
34, whatever it is. Yes.
Yeah. So we have a lot of experience, and this is what we do every single day.
Yeah.
Because clients call us all the time with all these questions.
Yeah, so actually just this past week, I spoke at Babson College and at Merrimack College to different groups of kids.
Very exciting.
And one of the things that these kids, they're taking financial planning, it's a financial planning course that they're taking. They're asking me, do you ever get nervous when clients call and ask with questions, or how do you deal with objections? How do you deal when they bring something new to you? And well, actually, before I answer that, Marion, let me ask you that question. How do you react after being in this business for so many years? You know, you never know what the client's going to call for, but how do you deal with that?
You know what? You listen. If you know the answer, you tell them what, you know, if you have an opinion on it, you tell them your opinion. But we're always open to new ideas and new thoughts and new perspectives. So we make sure we listen very carefully. And sometimes the question you get is not really what's bothering the client or what is at the root of the problem. So you also need to be part psychologist to be in this industry. Because truly, a lot of times that's what we do. It's more, you know, we can give you what the financial perspective is on that, but sometimes the financial perspective and what makes you feel good and sleep at night are two different things.
Absolutely. And you know, we talk about this idea about what financial planning is. And even what these kids are being taught in school of what financial planning is, they still want to migrate towards the investment strategy.
Absolutely.
And what we do in our office, investments are an important part of the portfolio and the relationship that we have with you, but there's so many more slices in that financial planning pie, right?
That's exactly right. So, I mean, think about it. Your investments, yes, I mean, you could be slightly more aggressive in your investments, but it's not going to change your life typically. I mean, unless you work for a company and you have a single stock from the company that happens to do incredibly well, then it can be a life-changing event. But for the most part, if you have a portfolio and you're retired and you have a 60-40 portfolio, you're not moving the needle whether you get a 6% return or a 7% return this year. That's not going to change your lifestyle, typically.
Yeah, but those slices in that financial planning pie, of course, they focus on the investment part
Correct.
of one of those slices, but a lot of the investment decisions can't be made unless we understand the implication of taxes in your life, insurance in your life, how much you can save, how much you spend, what you put in your 401k, how that money is allocated, whether you've done estate planning.
That's right. Also, like, what if you want to buy a house soon? You know, we're not investing that money. What if you need money for a car? What if your kid's going to college? There are just so many, equations or so many factors that enter the equation. So we need to know everything else that's going on.
Yeah, and so what I was trying to explain to the kids at Babson and at Merrimack is regardless of where you are in your financial journey, When you're talking to your advisor, you need to know where the advisor is in their journey, because there are 3 phases to becoming successful at being a financial planner. The first phase, and this is where the students are learning it, and frankly, your first 5 years, where you're getting your licenses, you're learning all the technicalities of the business, I call that the knowledge phase. You have to know this stuff before you can ever start to give advice to anybody.
That's right.
So you got to learn that stuff first.
And it's a lot. It is, it can be all consuming because there are a lot of factors that enter into every decision.
But just because things work well on paper with that knowledge
Right.
doesn't necessarily mean it works well in real life.
Right.
And that's when you move to what's called the experience stage.
Right.
That's when you're starting to meet with clients and you're testing your knowledge versus the types of advice that your clients need, understanding the questions that they're actually asking you, and understanding whether the questions that they're asking is really what they mean to be asking.
Well, you know what question I love to get is whether you should pay off your mortgage or not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think that's a fascinating question. So many people want to pay off their mortgage right away, or they want to pay off their mortgage before they enter retirement. Financially, sometimes that just does not make sense, particularly if you refinanced your mortgage at a 2.9% interest rate and CDs are paying 4.5%. So it doesn't always make the best financial sense. On the other hand, it is a huge peace of mind if you have no mortgage. And sometimes that peace of mind outweighs the financial benefit.
Yeah. And one thing that many people forget that we find is when they say, oh, I want to pay off my mortgage, I won't have to make that monthly payment anymore. Well, many people pay escrow as part of their mortgage payment, which includes property tax and insurance.
Right.
And when you stop paying your mortgage, when your mortgage is paid off, that doesn't mean that you don't stop paying the property tax and the insurance. That cost...
Except you might not pay it monthly. So all of a sudden...
Right, you may start to pay it quarterly.
Yeah, you get a big property tax bill and you're looking at it like, oh my God, where do I get the money for this? Because I didn't budget that.
And and what's funny sometimes, though it hasn't happened with most recent home purchasers, but people that have refinanced and refinanced over time, over the long period of time, they find that the property tax and the insurance bill is oftentimes more than what they're paying for principal and interest.
So when you think of paying off your mortgage and you're thinking, I'm paying $3,000 a month, well, the mortgage piece of that, principal and interest, because remember, that's all you're paying off, that might be $1,000. The other $2,000 might be property taxes and
it's different. So so understanding, that's the experience part that we're building.
Correct.
You learn from that. You learn from the way that clients will ask questions about maybe misunderstanding what a Roth is, or not misunderstanding how a trust works as part of what they own, or whether they've actually had a trust drafted, but maybe not put anything into the trust. There's a lot of different nuances that we learn. So that's the experience part. And then over time, after you've had multitudes of experiences, you move into what's called the wisdom phase. And that's the phase that I certainly believe Marion and I are both in that phase, where clients will ask us questions. They'll try to stump us. People will call up and they've read something in the newspaper and they want us to try to argue with them about it. And we are so much more laid back, so much more reasonable, because we feel like we've seen so many of these nuances, so many of these types of questions, that we try to answer things rationally rather than emotionally, and getting all worked up and trying to get into an argument with somebody, when instead you're trying to help them understand a bigger picture and not focus on the readings that they did of a particular editorial columnist that writes in a particular newspaper about the end of the world, and shouldn't I be thinking about that too? And we had that on one of our webinars this week.
Absolutely. And everybody has a different perspective. And so sometimes what we need to do is just offer our perspective and what we have seen over, for me, the past 26 years that has gone on, and why we've come to the conclusions we've come to. And that it provides some guidance for others who are looking at one minuscule piece of information out of context. And I think that's incredibly important. You need to look at everything in context. And we can step back and do that. It's a lot easier to do when you're not focusing on that every day, that little piece.
Yeah, and you have to look at it
the news
as to how it impacts you and not your neighbor, not society, not what you read about, not your friends, your colleagues, your family. How does it impact your unique situation? And as financial planners, that's what we truly focus on,
Right.
is understanding where everything is and what everything is worth so that we can deliver the advice that's appropriate for you, not what a model says, not what so-and-so say or
Right.
they say, right?
Who's that?
I have no idea who they are.
Right.
But you know, just this week, Marion, we did a webinar because periodically we do these things when, you know, the markets appear to be a little volatile. Sure, we're going through this war right now. I'm not trying to diminish the impact of what the war is, but we wanted to bring our clients in to answer some questions. And you got some feedback from a client today from somebody who called us.
We actually get a lot of good feedback from these little perspectives that we offer, just because we are a rational voice in an emotional time.
Right.
And that's what we're trying to do. And rather than talk to each person individually, sometimes it's just easier to throw it out there because a lot of people just don't pick up the phone and call us, but they have the same questions. But, you know, I had a client recently that I spoke to and said, you know, we really enjoyed listening to the webinar on Wednesday. We really appreciated the perspective that you put on it, particularly the oil prices and what an equilibrium type of oil price is that Marc brought to the table.
You know, it's interesting. You know, you pick up information from a variety of different sources. I don't know if you've watched the show Landman. I think it was on HBO or something like that.
See, you can get some good stuff watching TV.
And and I'm learning it. Should I believe it as fact? I want to believe it as fact, but I can't verify anything either. Yellowstone was another show written by the same person that talked about the cattle industry and life of raising cattle and what happens up in the Montana region. This is all about the oil industry in Texas. And, you know, we oftentimes hear about gas prices going up and gas prices going down and who that all benefits. And Billy Bob Thornton, who is the landman, is talking about, you know, how oil businesses thrive, they die, and what is a happy medium. And generally he was saying that if we can keep prices of a barrel of oil somewhere in the mid-60s to mid-70s, that is an equilibrium price where everybody is satisfied.
The oil companies are making money.
Right. The consumer isn't feeling overwhelmed at the pump. It's affordable. Everybody continue to grow businesses, build businesses, etc.
The workers in Texas who rely on income from the oil are happy.
They can get the income that they were counting, etc.
Yeah.
If oil prices drop into the 40s and 50s a barrel, now all of a sudden the consumers are thrilled. Oh my goodness, I can get gas for under $2. Yet if you're in the oil business in Texas, you might having to face layoffs. You can't afford so many people because you're not making as much in the way of profits. However, when oil prices go to $100 or $120 a barrel, consumers are frustrated to no end. The news media talks about how high gas prices are. Yet the oil companies are making a bloody fortune.
Right.
They're making profit hand over fist. Everybody's doing well. But they also know that these times will come when things aren't so good. Right. So it's finding that equilibrium. If we can keep oil prices between, say, $65 and $75 a barrel, we're in good shape. And I think that's what we're trying to get to. Absolutely. Even as we look right now, and today is what we said, Thursday, the 25th, the 26th of March. Even with the war right now, you're looking at oil prices around 90 or so.
It was like between 90 and 100.
90 and 100 or so a barrel. So it's higher, but we're going to get that down. We're convinced of that. And that's to come. And that's what we call financial advice in a language you can understand. If now's the time for you to get serious about your financial planning and investment management needs, we hope you'll give us a call. 978-531-8108. That's 978-531-8108. Or visit us on that thing called the World Wide Web. FreedmanFinancial.com. That's Freedman.
2 E's and a D.
Financial.com. You can go to the bottom of any page on our website, put in your name and your email address, and you'll be subscribed to our free weekly newsletter that we have been writing on our own and sending to your inbox every Friday at 10:30 in the morning since March of 2009. Approaching 27 years this month, March. But yeah, Marion, of doing this. It's 27 years. Not 27?
27 years. No.
2009. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
17 years.
Yeah.
17 years. Sorry, don't count. I use a calculator sometimes too. You know, it's late in the day. But
time to go home.
But hey, people love the newsletter because it's filled with financial advice in a language you can understand, little stories, news you can use, not necessarily investment or economic driven. It's about everything that relates to money. We hope you'll subscribe to it. Once again, it's FreedmanFinancial.com. That's Freedman.
2 A's in a day.
Financial.com. Go to the bottom of any page. Once again, your name, your email address, you'll get our newsletter. And like us on Facebook, like us on Instagram, like us on YouTube. That's who we are. We hope to see you again next week with more dollars and cents and financial advice in a language you can understand. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.
Enjoy. Bye-bye.
During today's episode of Dollars and Cents with Freedman Financial, your host may have discussed specific financial planning and investment ideas that are for general information only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations. Please remember that investing involves risk and may include loss of principal. Always consult a certified financial planner professional, qualified attorney, or tax advisor prior to investing to determine what is appropriate for you. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.